be honest, you're not the first person who comes to me saying my English fluency hasn't been improving for years. In fact, I was at that stage back in my mid-teens when I was learning English. I felt like no matter how much grammar I was studying, no matter how many words I knew, how much time I spent learning English, nothing seemed to be working. I felt like I could never be as fluent as I saw so many other people around me could. Trying to get better, but I still felt like I wasn't making much progress. In fact, I felt like I was going backwards. But after learning English for 20 years and becoming an expert in helping ambitious professional adults improve their English fluency and gain confidence in having conversations in English, I kind of see what the problem was. And that might be the problem you're facing right now as well, is that you're getting away with not practicing speaking English, meaning the consequences of not being able to speak English or have conversations with other people don't scare you enough for you to change the way you're learning English. And it's probably because you live in your own country where English isn't spoken on a daily basis, or because you think at this level, this is just enough, you're getting by, so there's no good enough reason for you to change the way you learn. Difference between those who walk into any room feeling confident, knowing what to say, how to communicate with other people effectively, and people who struggle for years studying grammar and never really overcome their confidence issues, is that people who gain confidence in speaking English play big. They don't procrastinate, waiting, wishing, hoping if things could be different. If they had more time, they make more time. They don't complain about things they can't change. They take responsibility for what they can change, which is how they think, how they react to how they feel, and what they do about their English. And most importantly, they don't stay too long in their comfort zone, because we know that when you stay in your comfort zone, you are not learning at all. When you're starting to speak English and you kind of get to a level where you feel comfortable talking about everyday topics and your progress slows down, that's actually kind of a good thing. You're already able to have conversations about casual topics, and most people are probably able to understand you most of the time. But because you're already used to saying things in a certain way, your brain, which is a very lazy organ, not just your brain, all of our brains, isn't really forced to do something differently or make big enough of an effort for you to say things differently or communicate more effectively. After all, the main mission of your brain isn't to help you speak English fluently and confidently. It's to help you stay safe and stay alive, so it's going to do everything it can to conserve as much energy as it can. If you still say my English fluency hasn't been improving for years, despite practicing, how deep was that practice? How often did you do something that helped you step out of your comfort zone just a little bit? Or how often did you switch up the people you were speaking to, so you kind of get more used to speaking English with a range of different people? How often did you take risks as you were speaking English, so you could try and use an expression that maybe you weren't sure 100% how to use, but by using them you actually gain confidence and a lot of feedback on how it's used correctly? And I'm asking this with all the compassion I have. Someone who's been there, who has spent a lot of the years in this intermediate plateau, and I know how hard it is to see no change, yet you still put in the effort. You might even stay consistent with it. But I'm also an English fluency and learning coach who truly believes that you have absolute potential in becoming as fluent and confident in speaking English as humanly possible, as long as you put in the smart work, not the hard one. The reason I'm talking about how it's not hard work but smart work is because what you actually focus on, how you are learning in a way that best serves the way your brain is learning a language naturally, you're going to save so much of your time and energy from worrying or getting stuck, because you focus on what actually helps you build your fluency. I know this because I got to a really good proficient level of English by the age of 25, 26, because I was focusing on the way I was learning naturally. Before we move on and I share everything with you about all the strategies you could use to get out of this loop you're currently stuck with in your English learning journey, let me introduce myself and say welcome or welcome back to my channel. This is Chubby. I'm an English fluency, learning and language anxiety coach, and this is a channel for serious English learners who want to learn how to make vocabulary more memorable and how to speak English more freely, confidently and comfortably with the help of listening and spoken interaction. So if these are topics that you're into and you'd like to find out more about, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you get my weekly updates, long, short form videos and everything else you'll find on my channel to help you speak English more fluently and confidently. Students in my communities, two of my communities, my fluency and my practice community as well, both found learning to speak English so much easier when it was a combination of effort and fun. And too many struggling English students who are not serious about learning English focus too much on the fun part. Yes, it's important to have fun. That's a huge component of your success. If you're not having fun learning, if you're not having fun speaking English, chances are you won't find the motivations to keep going. And remember, learning English is a long journey. But let's just not confuse having fun swiping through social media on TikTok videos and Instagram reels, learning vocabulary that you will not remember in 3 days, and having fun actually reading, listening to, or watching something in English that is actually something you are interested in, or having fun talking about some topics that you find useful to talk about with other people. I wouldn't actually call that having fun. I would call that learning superficially or pretending to learn. Maybe right now you don't see all those opportunities like a promotion, a better job, more money, or the opportunity to live or work or study in another country, or even travel everywhere. So no external circumstances force you to actually make an effort and get out of this comfort zone you're currently in, or you might just simply have not thought taking risks as a way to break out of this. My English fluency hasn't been improving for years. So now you can take a moment and reflect on some of these questions I'm going to be telling you. Or if you feel like, just jot down these questions and reflect on them later. Reflection is something I see as a crucial part of actually making progress, so we don't just repeat the things that clearly aren't working for us. How often do you take a little bit of a risk whenever you speak English? Use new grammar structures or vocabulary that you aren't 100% sure of how to use? How often do you make an attempt and adjust the way you communicate to the conversation? Do you think of how to say something better, more effectively, more formally, more informally, depending on who you talk to and in what situation you are in? In what part of your English learning journey have you been playing small? And most importantly, what excuses have you come up with for not doing your best every time you can? That doesn't equal doing things perfectly. So let this video be your inspiration, your encouragement to keep taking risks, to keep going, facing your difficulties and pushing those boundaries so you can finally embrace all the discomfort and turn that discomfort into learning. I mean, how can we expect avoiding uncomfortable, difficult or challenging situations to help us make faster progress with our English fluency? Rising up to those challenges that get you out of your comfort zone just a little bit is literally what makes learning English so effective. Now you can check out these two videos where I mention a bunch of different strategies that help my students as well improve their English fluency and get out of this plateau phase. And that's something that if you start using, I'm sure in the next 3 to 6 months, you no longer have to say my English fluency hasn't been improving for years. But it's probably going to come down to one of these 3 aspects of your English learning. Now, what I see as the #1 reason so many struggling English students are stuck with their English fluency, and the reason why they make so many mistakes, they don't sound natural and they can't improve their pronunciation, is that they don't practice their listening, their active listening skills. So their ears can get gradually used to spoken English, not just what they see in textbooks, what most people rely on, quizzes online or anything written. Struggling English students focus too much on grammar, learning vocabulary passively, which is understandable because this is everything we did in school for like 5-10 years of learning English. And most people falsely believe that the more grammar they study and the more words they know, the more confident they'll be able to speak English. But if we just study vocabulary and maybe know their translation so we understand more words, eventually what we work on is our comprehension skills, our ability to understand language and not to produce it. And our passive knowledge of grammar and vocabulary is always going to be bigger then what we can actively use, even my passive vocabulary is going to be way bigger than the words I actively use in a conversation. But that doesn't mean we can't try and activate as much grammar and vocabulary to communicate more effectively in English as we possibly can. And the third thing I see that holds a lot of people back from improving their fluency is that they think of speaking English as running. You can just start running and you're gonna get better at running, but you won't necessarily get better at speaking English by only speaking. And yes, there is a fluency aspect of speaking where we need to practice how to put our thoughts into words and then those words into sentences. But it's not gonna help us speak more naturally or communicate more effectively. And I talk more about this in this video, how speaking just by itself and expecting to just randomly talk and improve isn't necessarily the solution all the time, because what often ends up happening is that people just speak for the sake of speaking, so they repeat the same mistakes again and again, and they will eventually not be able to find other ways to express themselves, because so many people don't get feedback on the mistakes they make as they speak English. They don't know that they are making mistakes, so they get comfortable with not changing them. And when we aren't faced with new challenges, we aren't put into new situations like giving a mini presentation or showing our town to other people who don't speak our first language, share some of our own speculations about the future, which are all little sub skills that advanced English speakers know, eventually we're going to end up repeating the same thing over and over again. Focusing on that 1% is really what's going to help you make progress, because you're going to break out of this perfectionism, waiting to be ready, waiting to be perfect. And that's also your opportunity to take risks, make bigger mistakes, and eventually make a bit of an effort that is more than just showing up, which will eventually help you reap all the fruits of playing big and make much faster progress with your English. Now, after hearing this, you have a choice, as in every minute of your life. You either crawl back into your cocoon in your comfort zone, not changing anything about the way you show up about your English learning, not taking risks and just repeating the same strategies that haven't been working for the last couple of years, or give it all you have, focus on getting 1% better every time you practice English, switch a few things up about the way you're learning, the way you're reviewing vocabulary, the way you're having conversations with other people, which isn't just going to help you feel much more motivated about making progress with your English fluency, but it will also give you a chance to finally break out of this plateau that you're currently experiencing and see your fluency skyrocket, which I'd love you to experience. If your choice is the second, make sure you sign up for my free webinar, Activate Your English, which is going to give you a bunch of strategies you could use to eventually turn the words and the grammar you understand into words and grammar that you can actually actively use in a conversation, help you feel much more confident about the way you have conversations with other people, so you can finally see a lot of improvement in the way you speak English more confidently, understand fast English speakers, and express yourself with a wide range of vocabulary. So you no longer have to say, my English fluency hasn't been improving for years, and you just click the link in the description below to sign up, and I honestly can't wait to help you even more on that webinar and in the future video. The reason why and confidently, that doesn't make sense. What's the point of so their ears can get gradually used to it. So their ears can get gradually used to the word. What is it?